AITA for avoiding my mom after she told me to suck it up. When I broke my fingers, I always thought pain was something you just swallow. That's what my mom taught me growing up. Pain wasn't something you acknowledge. Certainly not something you cried about. You sucked it up, you moved on, you handled it. But that day in the gym, when a heavy weight slipped off the rack and came crashing down on my hand, I learned just how wrong that mindset could be. The sound it made when it hit my fingers was sharp and sickening, like twigs snapping in the cold. The pain shot through me in waves, so intense I thought my vision might go black. I remember kneeling on the floor, clutching my hand to my chest, tears streaming down my face. It wasn't just pain, it was shock, helplessness, and fear. All at once, my first instinct was to call her my mom. Even though I was hundreds of miles away at college, even though deep down I knew how she'd react, I still believed in that fragile, childlike part of me that she would understand. I could barely hold the phone steady as I dialed her number, my fingers trembling and my breath shallow. When she picked up, her voice was cool and even, the same as always. "What is it?" she asked, and I told her everything, how the weight fell, how bad it hurt, how I thought something was really wrong. I expected concern, a gasp, maybe even the faintest flicker of maternal worry. But instead, her words cut through me like ice. "Suck it up and rest. It'll be fine." For a moment, I just sat there, stunned. I didn't even know what to say. I called her because she was my mom, because part of me still believed she'd tell me it was okay to go get help, that it was okay to be hurt. But she didn't, she never did. That was her way. Everything in life was a test of endurance. You didn't complain, and you certainly didn't spend money seeing a doctor if you didn't absolutely have to. Even after I hung up, I sat on the gym floor, cradling my swollen, throbbing hand, trying to convince myself that she was right. Maybe it wasn't that bad. Maybe the pain would go away if I just iced it. I didn't even notice how much time passed until my roommate walked in and saw me sitting there, tears streaking down my cheeks. She rushed over, her eyes wide. "Oh my God," she said, staring at my hand. "That's not normal. We need to get you to urgent care now." I panicked. I didn't want to go. My mom's voice echoed in my head, telling me I was overreacting, telling me not to waste money. But my roommate was insistent. "It's $200, she said after calling the urgent care to check. "Out of pocket. You can't just let it sit like that." Even as I nodded and got into the car with her, guilt clawed at me. I texted my mom, trying to justify it. "It's only $200, I wrote. "I'll pay for it myself." But instead of reassurance, her reply was cruel. "You better hope your fingers are broken," she said, "or else I'm not helping you pay for anything." I didn't even know how to respond to that. My chest tightened and I felt a strange kind of shame settle over me. For the first time in my life, I actually hoped something was broken just so I could prove her wrong. Just so she wouldn't laugh at me later and tell me how soft I'd become. When we got to urgent care, they took one look at my hand and immediately sent me for x-rays. The technician was gentle and kind, asking me about school and trying to distract me from the pain. But all I could think about was my mom's words. That bitter hope stayed lodged in my chest, even as the doctor came in and showed me the x-rays. "2 fractures, he said. "Your pointer and middle fingers are both broken. We'll splint them and monitor for possible surgery if they don't heal right." Relief and sadness washed over me all at once. Relief because I wasn't imagining things, sadness because it meant nothing had really changed. My mom would still laugh at me later, and she did. When I called her to tell her the news, her reaction was chilling. She chuckled under her breath, like the whole thing was some kind of joke. "Well," she said, "at least you're happy now that they're broken, right? Guess you got what you wanted." I hung up soon after, feeling hollow. That was 3 weeks ago. I haven't spoken to her since. She's texted me a few times, asking for updates, pretending like she cares now, but I can't bring myself to reply. Every time her name lights up my phone, something in me curls up and shrinks. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to tell her what her words did to me, how much they hurt. And now I feel stuck like a little kid again, scared to speak up, scared to make her angry. My brother told me I was overreacting, that I should just forgive her and move on. "She probably feels bad," he said. But does she? Or is this just her way of keeping me in line, making sure I never forget how small I really am to her? Sometimes I catch myself staring at my splinted fingers and wondering if this is just who we are, if this is who she made me. A person who has to break before anyone will take her pain seriously. I wish I could say that after that day, something inside me snapped and I found the courage to finally confront her. But the truth is, nothing snapped. Not really. Instead, I felt myself folding into the same old pattern of silence and second-guessing, the way I always did with her. Every time her name appeared on my phone, just those 3 little letters, Mom, my stomach would knot up. Sometimes, I'd open the message just to see what she said, then lock my screen without replying. And then I'd sit there, staring at nothing, wondering if I was wrong to feel this way. Maybe my brother was right. Maybe I was overreacting. But if I was, why did it still hurt so much? Why did it still echo in my mind, that laugh of hers when I told her about my broken fingers? The way she'd said, "Well, at least you're happy now that they're broken?" I kept replaying it over and over, as if some hidden meaning would reveal itself if I just thought hard enough. But no, there was no hidden meaning. It was what it was, dismissive, cruel. A mother who couldn't bring herself to care when her own daughter was hurt. The days passed slowly. My fingers were splinted now, stiff and awkward, the bruises turning yellow and fading. I wore them like a badge of shame, like proof that I was weak enough to let this happen in the first place. Every time someone asked me what happened, I gave the same rehearsed answer. Oh, just an accident at the gym. I never told anyone the whole story. How I'd sat on the floor for half an hour crying before my roommate found me. How I'd begged my mother to tell me what to do, only for her to scoff and tell me to suck it up. Who wants to hear that? Who wants to hear about a mom who laughs when her kid is in pain? But sometimes, late at night, when the apartment was quiet and my roommate was asleep, I'd sit up in bed and read through her texts. She never apologized. Not really. Just short, clipped updates. How's the hand? Doctor say anything new? Hope you're keeping it clean. As if she cared. As if she even remembered the words she'd said to me the day it happened. I tried drafting responses, but every time I started typing, anger and doubt tangled up in my chest until I deleted the message. What was the point? If I told her how hurt I was, she'd just tell me I was being dramatic. She'd say she didn't mean it like that, or worse, she'd laugh again. And then it'd feel stupid all over again for letting her get to me. It's strange how a person can make you feel like a child, even when you're legally an adult. Here I am, 18 years old, away at college, living on my own, and still, her opinion of me has the power to twist my insides and make me question everything I thought I knew about myself. The worst part was, I caught myself thinking about her more than I should have. I'd wake up and check my phone expecting a message from her, then feel sick when there was one. I'd catch myself scrolling through old photos of us at the beach when I was little, baking cookies at Christmas, her smiling at me during my high school graduation. For a few moments, I'd remember what it felt like to be her little girl, to believe she was the strongest, kindest person in the world. Then reality would crash back down, and I'd remember the cold way her voice sounded when she told me to suck it up. And I'd wonder if that kindness I thought I saw in her was just something I imagined all along. Sometimes I'd even dream about her. In the dreams, she was warm again, laughing with me, hugging me, telling me she was proud of me. Then I'd wake up and feel hollow all over again, realizing it was only a dream. My roommate tried to talk to me about it once. She saw me sitting on the couch staring at my splinted hand and asked if I'd heard from my mom lately. I shrugged and told her I didn't feel like talking about it, and she didn't press. But later, I heard her telling her boyfriend on the phone that she thought my mom was toxic, and that she didn't understand why I still cared what she thought. I wish I could explain it to her. I wish I could explain it to myself. Maybe it's because she's all I've ever had. My dad left when I was little, and it was always just the two of us after that. She worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat. She'd come home exhausted, but she'd still help me with my homework or take me out for ice cream when I had a bad day. She taught me to be tough because she thought that's what I needed to survive. I know she loved me in her own way. But now I'm starting to wonder if her way of loving me is really love at all, or just control dressed up as love. The more I thought about it, the more I started to realize something. All my life, she's taught me to bottle things up, to be quiet, to be grateful, to suck it up. And maybe that worked when I was a kid, but I'm not a kid anymore. That night, as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, I decided something. I was done waiting for her to care enough to apologize. I was done letting her silence me. So I picked up my phone and opened a blank message. My hands were shaking as I typed, my splinted fingers awkward on the screen. You really hurt me, I began. When I called you that day, I was in so much pain, I could barely breathe. And you told me to suck it up. You made me feel like I didn't matter. Like I was weak for asking for help. Then when I told you my fingers were broken, you laughed at me. Do you even realize how cruel that was? Do you even care? I stared at the words for a long time. Then, before I could lose my nerve, I hit send. I didn't sleep much that night. My heart was pounding, my mind racing through all the possible ways she might respond. Would she get angry? Would she laugh again? Would she just ignore me? By morning, her reply was waiting. Just 2 words. Grow up, that was it. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. Then I turned off my phone and buried it under my pillow. And for the first time in my life, I didn't cry. I thought hearing her tell me to grow up would finally shatter whatever fragile thread I still clung to, but instead, it left me numb. Like all the hurt and longing I carried for her, my whole life had calcified into something hard and cold inside me. I laid there under my blanket that morning, staring at the ceiling, the words glowing in my mind like a wound that wouldn't stop bleeding. Grow up. I wanted to scream. I wanted to march to her door, shove my splinted hand in her face, and show her the bruises that still hadn't healed. Show her the medical bills I paid on my own because she couldn't be bothered to care. But instead, I stayed silent, because deep down, I knew it wouldn't matter. She'd just smirk, call me dramatic, and tell me to suck it up again. And I was so tired of sucking it up. So tired of pretending her love was enough when it never had been. My roommate noticed right away that something was different. That day, she found me sitting at the kitchen table, my phone face down, my eyes glassy, staring at nothing. She asked me if my mom had replied. I just laughed, a bitter, hollow sound that even surprised me, and said, yeah, she told me to grow up. My roommate didn't even try to hide her disgust. She just shook her head and muttered something under her breath about parents who don't deserve the kids they have. And for the first time in a long time, I wondered if she was right. The next few weeks passed in a haze. My fingers healed slowly, but my heart felt heavier than ever. Every morning, I'd wake up thinking maybe today she'd realize how cruel she'd been. Maybe she'd call and say she was sorry. Maybe she'd finally see me, really see me, and tell me she loved me. But the only texts I got were perfunctory, almost robotic. How's the hand? Doctor say anything? Hope it's better. Never an apology. Never an ounce of warmth. Just empty words from someone who once promised she'd always be my biggest supporter. I stopped replying altogether. And slowly, my silence seemed to stretch into something more permanent. Weeks turned into a month, then 2. My birthday came and went with nothing but a half-hearted happy birthday text, no call, no card. It hurt more than I wanted to admit. But it also lit a fire in me I didn't know I had. Because for once, I started thinking about what I deserved. Not just from her, but from everyone. And I realized I deserve more than this. I deserve more than a mother who only reached out when it was convenient for her. More than someone who dismissed my pain like it was nothing. I deserve to be seen, to be loved, to be enough. That thought stuck with me even as the weeks blurred together and finals loomed. Late at night, when the apartment was quiet and I couldn't sleep, I'd lie there thinking about my childhood, about all the little ways she chipped away at me without even realizing it. The scraped knees she never kissed better because she told me to be tough. The nights I cried myself to sleep because she was too busy working to hear me. The way she'd roll her eyes when I said I felt sad or scared, telling me to get over it, like feelings were a weakness. And I wondered how many pieces of myself I'd lost over the years trying to live up to her impossible idea of strength. My roommate was the one who finally convinced me to see a therapist. She found the number and even sat next to me while I made the appointment. At first, I didn't want to go. What was the point? It's not like talking about it would change her. But when I sat down in that little office and the therapist asked me what brought me in, the words poured out of me like water from a broken dam. I told her everything. The phone call, the laugh, the text, the years of being told to suck it up. And when I finally stopped talking, the therapist just looked at me with this kind, sad smile and said, "That must have been so painful for you." And I broke. Because no one, not even my mother, had ever said that to me before. The weeks that followed were hard. Therapy dredged up things I thought I'd buried for good, but it also gave me something I didn't expect: clarity. I realized that her inability to show me love the way I needed wasn't about me. It never was. It was about her own pain, her own flaws, her own inability to see beyond her idea of what strength should look like. And slowly, I started letting go. Not forgiving her, not yet, but letting go of the hope that she'd ever be the mother I wanted her to be. The next time she texted me, it was the same as always: "How's the hand?" And for the first time, I didn't feel that familiar pang in my chest. I didn't feel the urge to explain myself or beg for her approval. I just stared at the message, smiled faintly, and set my phone down without replying. That night, I sat on the couch with my roommate and told her everything about the therapist, about the realization I'd had, about the decision I'd made. "I'm done," I said quietly. "I love her. I probably always will. But I'm done letting her hurt me." My roommate nodded and squeezed my shoulder. And in that moment, for the first time in my life, I felt free. My fingers eventually healed completely, though the doctor said I might always have a little stiffness in them. A small price to pay, I thought, because the real healing had nothing to do with my hand. It was the healing that came from finally standing up for myself, from finally realizing that I was worth more than her indifference. The last time she called, a few weeks later, I let it ring. And when it went to voicemail and I heard her voice, sharp, impatient, just like always, something in me finally shifted. I still loved her, but I didn't need her anymore. Not the way I used to. And maybe that was what growing up really meant. Not sucking it up, not swallowing my pain, but learning to let go of the people who couldn't love me the way I deserved, even if that person was my own mother.